Welcome to Playing with Fire, the podcast that's lighting the way to financial independence and early retirement.
We're your hosts, Chris and Jenny Schultz, and we're here to take you on an exciting journey towards financial freedom, one step at a time.
In each episode, we'll share our own experiences, insights, and lessons from our path to a seven-figure net worth before hitting the big 4-0.
But that's not all. We'll also introduce you to some incredible guests who have achieved FIRE or are well on their way. They'll share their stories, strategies, and secrets to success.
Our mission is simple: to inspire you, educate you, and entertain you as we explore all things FIRE. We believe that financial independence is a journey anyone can embark on, and we are here to show you the way.
So whether you're new to the world of FIRE or a seasoned pro, this podcast is your go-to resource for achieving your financial goals and designing a life you love.
Are you ready to ignite your financial future? Then let's dive right in.
Welcome to Playing with Fire, where your journey to financial independence and early retirement begins now.
Around here at Playing with Fire, we're all about breaking the status quo. And sometimes that can feel uncomfortable and even a bit scary. Do you know how to empower your subconscious mind to get on board with your goals and even propel you in the right direction toward them? Matt Dickson does. Matt is a certified hypnotist and registered yoga teacher, and today he's chatting with Chris all about befriending and empowering your subconscious mind.
Hi, Matt. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks.
Hey, good. Chris. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, what your background is and where you come from?
I refer to what I do as subconscious coaching, but the long and short of it is I'm a hypnotist and a yoga teacher. The last career I had that lasted the longest was a personal trainer, and that was for 17 years.
And so what made you step from that into this career path?
The biggest thrill in personal training and why I loved it so much was watching somebody transform. And interestingly enough, it wasn't so much the physical transformation, because some people would physically transform, but they would still be unhappy with themselves. When they start to get functionally strong and start believing in themselves because their bodies are doing things that they didn't think they could do before, then the mirror starts to be good to them. And usually they would come to me when they didn't like the way they looked. They had body image issues and things. And so that kind of golden moment, like when they would have a good weigh-in, or they would realize that they're transformed, or a good check-in and that type of thing, was kind of what I really lived for. But in hypnosis, hypnotherapy, and even yoga, that happens like instantly, almost like it can happen in one session.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask, was the excitement then for you that you would see the change quicker or faster?
Yeah, probably. And more of it.
I would like to have an idea of the middle way. How you make the journey from, I guess, conscious to subconscious, and using that subconscious mind, and what that middle way will look like for someone. So for us in the FIRE movement, what we're trying to do is have a sense of people who are carving their own niche or carving their own path. Let's say I'm at the very beginning of that path. So I have an idea, or I have a sense that I would like to create something or do something. I've never done something for myself before. I'm breaking free of this conscious mold that I have. Mm-hmm. Do you have a suggestion for what the first step or first couple of steps would look like for someone to work their way towards a goal?
I'll use a yoga example. If I were to teach somebody or balance on one foot, most people think, I can't stand on one leg, I can't stand on one foot, because they're thinking one foot down, 1 foot up. See themselves like, beginning to fall and all that stuff. And they think of balance as just that, the foot far up and one down. The first part of balance is begin to feel heavy in your left foot. Ground into your left foot, get strong in your left leg, and begin to feel lighter in your right foot. Which to do that, you'd have to lift your heel, mm-hmm. And then once the ball of the right foot is only touching the floor, that means they're holding a good amount of the weight of their leg up with their muscle energy, with their strength, and grounding more into the left. And then this is the important part. Do you see, then say, this is balance. You see now you're on one foot. You're pretty much on one foot. a little farther, and then recognizing it each time until, the right foot leaves the floor, and then more up until it gets to what they had visualized before, but letting them know you're on one foot right now. With the subconscious mind, that's the thing that runs just about everything. And if a person is having a hard time seeing progress, every amount of movement, just like in that balance, is recognize it,
Gotcha.
and to say to your subconscious mind, say, thank you, subconscious mind. Yeah, that's what I want. That's what, good job. Good job. And if you talk to your subconscious mind like it's, I know it sounds nuts, but almost like it's another person, if you dissociate a little bit, just enough, it becomes a little more believable, I guess.
I think so. I think like
Yeah.
it's being willing to believe that something else is possible.
Mm-hmm.
And really starting in those tiny steps, or those tiny I shouldn't say tiny steps, but using, to your metaphor, those tiny movements, recognizing each of those tiny movements as being important.
Yes. Yeah. Even if you don't move in space, but you feel something, that's still movement.
Yes.
So my hands are together, I'm pressing in, and now I'm not pressing so much. I can't really feel them move in space, but they still move because they're not pressing together so tight. But if you look at it that way, like I'm still moving, as opposed to I'm not even moving yet,
Yeah.
totally like this. Yeah.
Yes, and actually that movement that you just made of your hands together and then your hands far apart, that totally talks about your middle way, right? You were saying in our previous conversation about, people are contracted in this space and then they're strung out to this space,
Mm-hmm.
finding that space in the middle that's, for lack of a better term, like that's the happy space, right? It has to oscillate.
Yeah. Like a slinky.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
a
wish
great that's a great example. I would like to have an idea of your journey into the subconscious mind. Where's that transition for you? I think as part of your storytelling ability, again referring to someone who's just starting, what does your journey look like into the space that you occupy now? Because you were a physical trainer for 17 years and now you've made a series of small changes into this new place that you're in. So tell us a little bit about that journey. What does that look like for you?
Getting my head around making the change was actually quite easy because I felt like it was the best way to do what I was already doing and what I wanted to do, which was transform self-esteem or self-confidence. Helping people feel better about themselves is what I was already doing. The hard part is, instead of working, in a gym or in a studio, I'm a solopreneur. I work at home kind of by myself, so it's lonely.
Yeah.
And I sit more. I have to consciously make the effort to get up and move. When you're a personal trainer, you don't. You don't have to. You're moving all the time.
If I'm a listener and I'm thinking about making a change, can you give us a sense of, like, if you were telling this person wants to go out and they want to buy another home or buy a rental home or something like that, and they have to believe that they're going to do it,
Mm-hmm.
how would you treat that client to reframe their subconscious mind? So I'd ask
Yeah.
about you, but clearly you've made those changes to get to this position in your career. If I'm starting, what can I do to make those changes?
Change your identity. Figure out whatever it is that you want to do. And so, like, if it's to buy a couple rental properties, then ask yourself, what kind of person buys rental properties? Who is that person? What are they called? What title do they have, so to speak? And then whatever pops into their head is the right answer. If the answer is a landlord, and then someone might say, no, it's an entrepreneur. Then someone says, no, it's this or that. The this or that, or it's what pops into your head. That's your subconscious mind telling you landlords do that.
Yeah.
I'm just pulling out landlord from my, I would say investor, but I don't know. So
whatever works for that person.
Exactly. So then landlord, and then begin to think of yourself like a landlord. And every single time you do something that a landlord does in your head, meaning you understand what a landlord is or does, then you acknowledge it and say, yeah, that's right. That's what landlords do. That's what I am. Good job. And then you thank your subconscious mind every time it pops in. Oh, good idea. Thank you, subconscious mind. Driving along and you see, ooh, that building, I could make a few apartments out of that. And then that's your subconscious mind telling you that. And you say, thank you, subconscious mind, for that. And then your identity starts to change. And when you become a landlord, you behave like one. When I became a personal trainer, I behaved like a personal trainer. I immediately started working out more. I lost a few pounds. I drank less. And when I became a hypnotherapist, that's how I identify now,
Yes.
and yeah, change your identity.
I love to change your identity, right? Because that could be for anything. And I remember for me,
Anything.
when I started my first company, one of the things that I would always do was like, if I was going to work in my office, I got up and got dressed like I was going to work. Like I didn't go into my office and work in a jogging pants and a hoodie. I went into my office like I was going out the door to work. I was putting myself into a mental space that was, this is a workspace. I always laugh at the Zoom, in the Zoom culture, right? You're professional on the top and cozy on the
Yeah.
bottom. And now I think that works for that's what worked for me. What works for someone else works for someone else.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Whatever clothes you wore, that's your uniform.
That's correct.
And,
Yes.
and yeah, and that's, when they say that, say to a fireman or to a police officer, like, oh, how do you run into a burning building? How do you run into a volatile situation? And then, I mean, I've heard many times, they say, well, you rise to the uniform, or they rise to
Yeah.
the job. When they put that on, they become somebody else. And that's, yeah, it's a great example. And I totally agree.
I think that's really cool. Okay, so I've changed my identity. I am believing I'm something. I'm believing in something, and because I'm believing in that, what that's also doing is that, as you mentioned, like I'm driving down the road and I see apartments.
Hmm.
Whatever we're talking about, that means that we're seeing what's available to us.
Hmm.
The subconscious mind is now letting those things in. The example that I always love is the one where you learn a new word and then you hear that word everywhere you go,
Yeah.
or you buy a car and you've never seen that car
Hmm.
before and now there's 1,000 of them. So
Hmm.
you're bringing that into your reality. So you've changed your identity. You're bringing things into your reality. What would you say is what is the next step? What's the next goal?
You just lift your foot higher.
To go back to the yoga one. Yes.
Just continually, the more that your identity becomes, changes, then like, what else do landlords do? Well, they may call the number on the for lease sign. They may get out and look through the windows, and then how would a landlord stand when they're doing that? And you have something in your mind, because a person knows what they get an idea in their head, like what a person who's wanting to maybe buy a building, how they would walk or how they carry themselves. And then you do it that way. Physically embrace your identity.
Yes. So I love that. That's the physical embrace of your identity.
Mm-hmm.
Do you, with your clients, do you encourage them to find other people who are encouraging of their goals? Or do you have someone in your corner that can help you? Or someone in your corner that can support you through this? Or do you find that these things are very solo?
Hypnotherapy is very lonely, like there's not a lot of us, but there's a lot of us online. And so yeah, like I regularly want to, communicate with my fellow hypnotists.
Yes.
If you're a yoga teacher, it's easier. If you're a personal trainer, it's easy. If you're a teacher, it's easier. It's interesting. I just heard on a podcast, Scott Sandlin, who puts together HypnoThoughts Live, the largest hypnosis conference in the world, said best thing about conferences is that to get confirmation from people who know the business, the craft, however you want to put it, because the clients don't know. They just know that they changed. They don't know what you did for them. The only thing a hypnotist does, or hypnotherapist does, however you look at it, subconscious coach, is guides people to their own resources.
Yes.
There's an artful way to do that. The clients don't know what's happening. They just know that they're changing, And so being around other people and talking to other people who are doing the same thing, where you can talk shop. Talking shop that is part of the identity. You don't talk shop if you don't shop.
That's right. There's very much a strength in finding people who are in the same lane as you.
Yeah.
surrounding yourself with those people.
Was that your question?
No, I mean, the goal there, I think, really was like you use that example to yourself, but essentially, if you're trying to make changes in your life, you want to surround yourself with people that are in your own lane, right? If whatever that specific thing is, whether it's the landlord part or the personal training part, or you're trying to start anything in your life, you want to find people who are going to encourage you.
Yes,
And there's also a solid step away from people who might discourage you. A great example is something like you want to start a business and you're talking to someone who also wanted to start a business but didn't. So they may discourage you from doing it, like, oh, that didn't work for me, and therefore it won't work for you. Whereas if you're hanging out with another solopreneur, as you mentioned to yourself, you're encouraging yourself because you're spending time with someone, whether it's in a physical or a digital space, who is doing something completely different to you, but it's encouraging because they're doing it.
Yes. And I think there's actually also value in spending a little time with the naysayers, because that's the subconscious mind is the dreamer. The conscious mind is the parent. The subconscious mind is like a child with a 500 IQ. They have a 5-year-old or 6-year-old who says they want to be an astronaut, and then the parent says, well, that's great. Let's look at vocational school as well, because that's very steady. That's a growing industry. There's that type of critical person. And then there's the crappy one that is nasty about it.
Yes, I like that. Yeah, I like that. It's not the goal to hang out with somebody who is the crappy one, but definitely the one that's like, here's a source of, have you thought about it this way, or have you thought about it that way?
And it gives it levity, or a little, to be philosophical, you don't know light unless you've been in the dark, right? So it's just a little levity to kind of compare that against, like, well, they're telling me I should quit doing this and do truck driving school. And this person here says, well, I was exactly where you were and I did this and this. And I'm going to kind of stay in the middle.
Yes.
And then you have to commit to your choice. Don't be in the middle that way. Be willing to hear things for comparison. It'll only strengthen you.
I love two of the things that you said. I love that you have to commit to what that goal is. You can't be wishy-washy about it. There has to be a commitment to what that goal is. But I also love the message of committing to, your inner 5-year-old or your inner 6-year-old, of like, what was that dream? Like, my son is 7. He goes to judo. He is firmly convinced that he is going to be a ninja. That is the vocational trade that he is thinking about. It's all about a ninja. So whatever that looks like, embrace that time. My dad, I remember saying to my dad once, watching a Porsche go by, and saying, like, I'd love to own a Porsche one day. And my dad went, do you know how much I'm 11 years old? Like, do you know how much a Porsche costs? I'm like, no. And I've had sports cars. I haven't had a Porsche. That's not on my goal list. But it's totally like, hey, if you want it, you can go out and you can get it. Yeah. But as you said, you have to make that commitment. You were talking about people focusing on a huge goal and the anxiety that goes along with that huge goal. They're at that point where their leg is in the air and they're wobbly, as opposed to just having that ball of the foot on the ground and coming up off of it.
Yeah.
I want you to just talk about the idea of those small goals feeding you. It doesn't mean that the huge goal doesn't exist, but you're not going to go straight from 0 to the huge goal. You need to work your way up to that. So can you expand on that thought? And I think for the listeners, I really would love you to expand on the middle way again.
What you're looking for, the huge goal, might be before that. A client would come in and it would say, I want to lose 50 pounds. And sometimes, like, what they're looking for at 50 pounds, because they only know one way of losing weight, you might find it 20 pounds. And then when you find that at 20 pounds, we'll focus on something else, as opposed to someone getting at 20 pounds and feeling, wow, this is so great. I just feel, wow, that transformation that they were looking for, they're there. And it would be a real disservice to say to that person, wait, I thought you said 50 pounds. What are you, a quitter?
Yes.
You'll stop now. You keep going. Like, there was a time for that, but that's the middle way, being flexible to change. When your leg does get up, many people think like, oh, I have bad balance because I can't hold my leg up for too long. Well, bad balance, as it were, would be that there's no other, the only place to go from the leg being up is falling on the floor.
Yes.
If your leg comes up and you're like, and then you can kind of touch your toe down. And I only stood up for 10 seconds that time. But as you were doing it, you were moving around. That is also the middle way, not panicking when you're moving around and not falling on your face. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So the be flexible to, because as you go down a new path, new things will reveal themselves. Your goals might change, and be okay with that.
Yes. I like that message. You can have a big goal, but as you're moving through it, allow it to change, allow it to fluctuate. And without doing that, there's like all of the negativity part that can come into that, where you beat yourself up for not achieving this thing in the amount of time that you said you were going to. It's about embrace. Like I talked in a podcast about yes moments. It's about embracing all of the yes moments that get you to a place.
Yeah. And a person can set their goal to become an actor, which is a huge goal, no matter what, working actor. And then on the way there, they begin to think like, oh, I think I'd rather be a director. I like what the crew is doing. I think I'd rather do that. And then they think like, oh, what I really wanted was just to be on the set of a movie I like to build things. I think I'd rather build sets, and with switching, if it reveals itself.
Yes. And I actually think that's a great thing because I think that it's important for the listener to understand that committing to change doesn't mean not being flexible to what comes into your life. You've made a commitment to change. It can be whatever that change looks like to you, but the change doesn't have to be attached to the end goal.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I think actually, Matt, that's probably a great place to end.
Awesome.
So I just wanted to thank you, Matt, for coming on today and talking about the subconscious mind. I'm sure that we could have a conversation that would last for a very long time about it. But it was wonderful to speak with you, and I hope that we can do it again.
Thank you, Chris. I had a great time.
You can catch more of Matt Dickson and his wisdom at mattdicksonhypnosis.com or find him on Instagram at mdixon28.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Playing with Fire. We hope you found inspiration and valuable insights on your journey to financial independence and early retirement.
If you enjoyed today's episode and want to stay connected with us and our amazing guests, be sure to subscribe to the podcast.
And if you've been enjoying the show, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Your reviews help us reach more people and continue to bring you fantastic content.
Have questions, comments, or suggestions for future topics? We'd love to hear from you. You can connect with us on social media on Instagram as _leaf_lifestyle, or visit our website at www.4leaflifestyle.com to stay in the loop.
Remember, your journey to financial independence starts with a single step, and you've just taken one today by listening to Playing with Fire.
So keep playing with fire, keep igniting those financial flames. This is your life, and it's time to create the life of your dreams.
Until next time, stay fired up.
Join my mom and dad in the next episode of Playing with Fire.